November the 24th, 1931. A blizzard tears across the Beaufort Sea. And when it finally breaks, 15 men climb out of a driftwood shelter to find something impossible. The ship they'd been camped beside for 6 weeks is simply gone. Not sunk, not sighted. Gone, they assumed, swallowed whole by the storm. They were wrong. That empty ship would keep sailing itself for the next 38 years. The SS Baychimo was a 230-foot steel steamer, built in Sweden and bought by the Hudson's Bay Company to run one of the loneliest trade routes on Earth, hauling supplies north to Arctic settlements and furs back south. For years she'd made that round trip without real incident. In the autumn of 1931, under Captain Sidney Cornwell, she was running dangerously late. She was loaded with close to $1 million in fox and beaver pelts, worth something nearer $20 million today, working her way home along the Alaskan coast near Barrow. The sea froze early that year. By the 1st of October, the Baychimo was locked solid in pack ice, weeks from open water, with no real way out. The Hudson's Bay Company chartered a small plane and flew out most of the 22 crew by mid-October. 15 men chose to stay behind, not out of loyalty to the ship exactly, but to the cargo. Nobody wanted to explain to London why a fortune in fur had simply been left to freeze. They built a driftwood and canvas shelter on the ice and settled in to wait. Then came the blizzard. 2 days of whiteout, strong enough to bury the shelter's own entrance. When it finally lifted, the men looked out at the ice field where their ship had sat for 6 weeks and found open water where she should have been. No wreckage, no debris. Captain Cornwell's first guess was the obvious one. Crushed by the ice, gone down somewhere out of sight. He was wrong within days. An Inuit seal hunter passing through told the stranded crew he'd seen the Baychimo, fully upright and intact, drifting about 45 miles down the coast. They tracked her down and climbed back aboard, but decided she still wasn't safe to sail out through moving ice. They pulled what furs they could carry and left the ship where she sat, assuming the winter would finish her. It didn't. In March of 1932, a fur trapper crossing the ice by dog sled came across the Baychimo, boarded her, and found the ship still floating, still largely intact. A year later, a group of Inuit travelers caught out in a storm found the same derelict ship and sheltered inside her for nearly a week before the weather cleared. An abandoned ghost ship had quietly become an emergency shelter. That pattern held for the next 3.5 decades. Sailors, trappers, and passing expeditions kept reporting the Baychimo drifting or locked in ice through the Beaufort and Chukchi seas, always empty. At least 3 separate attempts tried to tow her in for scrap. Every one was turned back by weather before the job was finished, as if the ice had decided this ship wasn't leaving on anyone's schedule but its own. By the late 1930s, sailors along that stretch of coast had started talking about the Baychimo like she had a will of her own. The fur was long since written off and the insurance long since settled, so nobody was chasing her for profit anymore, only out of plain disbelief that a steel hull that size kept refusing to sink in some of the harshest water on the planet. The last confirmed sighting came in 1969, 38 years after that first blizzard, spotted locked in ice off the Alaskan coast one final time. After that, nothing. No wreckage ever washed ashore, no confirmed sinking recorded anywhere. In 2006, the state of Alaska funded a search specifically to find her wreck, using decades of sighting reports to narrow the area. They came back with nothing conclusive. There's no ghost here and no conspiracy. Just an unusually stubborn steel hull, a genuinely brutal ocean, and 38 years of coincidence that feel from a distance almost deliberate. The honest answer is the least satisfying one. She likely broke up and sank sometime after 1969. Unwitnessed, the way most ships eventually do. But for nearly 4 decades, a ship everyone had given up on kept turning up anyway. If you want more stories the record never quite closed, subscribe to the Midnight Archive and tell me in the comments which vanished thing we should go looking for next. This entry stays open.